Like, hey, Scoob, did you hear Nikki Blake is hosting a Scooby-Doo panel? No. Yeah. Like on today's Scooby-Doo episode, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy meet Nikki Blake. Yeah, and a Scooby Panel. Like, we need to get this puppy started. Okay, Nikki Blake, take it away, Scooby-Doo.
Welcome to the Scooby Panel. I'm your host, Nikki Blake from ScoobyAddicts.com, and today we're talking about the Warner Brothers Studio stores. Before we begin, I'll have everyone introduce themselves, and Bradford, will start with you.
Hi, I'm Bradford Smith. I'm a Scooby fan and a writer.
Wendy?
Hi guys, I'm Wendy Bridge. I'm a commission artist. I've been collecting Scooby for over 30 years.
And Joel.
Hey there, I'm Joel from the YouTube channel Planet Scooby.
I'm so excited to finally be talking about the Warner Brothers Studio stores. I love those stores so much, and I miss them so much.
Yeah.
So we're going to discuss the stores in general, and before we do, I'm just going to read a bunch of information that I found about the stores. So the Warner Brothers Studio store was a chain of retail stores that opened in 1991. At the time, they sold merchandise based on the Looney Tunes, DC Comics, and other Warner Brothers characters. The first Warner Brothers Studio store opened on Friday, September 20th, 1991, at the Beverly Center in Los Angeles. 3 other stores opened that same year, one in Woodfield Mall in Schaumburg, Illinois, on October 4th, one in Fair Oaks Mall in Fairfax, Virginia, on October 25th, and one in Danbury Mall in Danbury, Connecticut on November 1st. The stores were 6,000 to 8,000 square feet and were designed to look like a studio backlot. There were approximately 2,500 items available for purchase exclusively at the studio stores, including animation cells, books, clothing, toys, posters, home furnishings, games, office supplies, and more. They had life-size statues of Warner Brothers characters and featured interactive video information systems to teach customers about animation. In 1996, Time Warner, who owned Warner Brothers, merged with Turner Broadcasting, which owned Hanna-Barbera, and pre-1996 MGM. This allowed products from those studios to be added to the Warner Brothers Studio stores. At its peak, there were 130 stores. Between 1997 and 2008, there were stores opened internationally, including in Australia and China. And they do currently have Warner Brothers Studio stores. One is in Burbank, California, and the other is in Abu Dhabi. So what are your thoughts in general on the Warner Brothers stores? Bradford?
I think the Warner Brothers Studio Store was a great idea because I think it was a really easy way for people to get access to, Warner Brothers stuff, Hanna-Barbera stuff. Because I know when I was like little growing up, my parents had a hard time finding a lot of Scooby stuff because it was like there was no eBay. People couldn't just go online and find, whatever Scooby stuff was out there. So it was nice that there was like a place you could go and you could buy, whatever Scooby kind of stuff they had, and they constantly seemed like they had new stuff. So, I mean, genius idea. I wish it would have lasted longer, but yeah.
And they had fun stuff. It was stuff that, I got a Scooby-Doo stapler from the Warner Brothers store. You can't find stuff like that now.
Yeah.
Wendy, what are your thoughts on the Warner Brothers stores?
Yeah, fantastic idea. Anytime that you can dedicate an entire store to, obviously it wasn't just Scooby, but, the Warner Brothers umbrella, which includes all the things that we love from Hanna-Barbera. Very disappointed that they really aren't a thing anymore. And I'm not convinced that they couldn't be. A lot of what was in those stores was reasonably affordable. The beanies and stuff, I think that they all, for the most part, retailed for $6 or $7 back when it was open. But they did have some definite high-end, clocks and things and statues and stuff that maybe was a little less accessible to the average person. but I don't know. I just kind of don't buy that it wasn't that successful. I think that maybe they just got a little bit more greedy than they needed to be. But yeah, I've never been in one. But if you see any pictures online, which I wish that there were more of them, amazing. Life-size statues, crazy elevator. Like they went all out on those things. They really, really did. And that was just like the best thing ever. And yeah, I'm sad that nobody knew and none of us, like we can't experience that anymore. And yeah, Warner Brothers, bring it back.
Yeah, really. You know, I feel like if they just put them in some major cities, they don't have to have 100 stores, but you know, just a few, just a few. Make it accessible for, you know, weekend trip for people, and yeah, that'd be nice. Joel, what are your thoughts on the Warner Brothers stores?
Yeah, it was a great idea. It's during a time where, like was mentioned, eBay did not exist. And I'm just thinking now, like a time with no flippers, buying all this stuff and then
Yeah.
selling it. It'd be awesome to go back. So much variety too. You had like Looney Tunes, Batman, Wizard of Oz, DC, Scooby later on. Yeah. Like Wendy, I was looking at pictures, life-size sculptures everywhere. Maybe they could bring it back in a pop-up. Like that seems to be like the rage now. Like they have pop-ups. So not in one city, they just kind of travel around, and that might be something to do. I don't know. I'm just rambling. But yeah. Love the idea of it. Miss it.
Yeah, we definitely need some stores back. Besides California and Abu Dhabi, because
Yeah.
I'm not going to either of those anytime soon. So one of the things that I thought was pretty cool was that they did sell on QVC in 1996. Scooby-Doo was part of it. Somebody was dressed as Scooby. And the only thing that I really found was a commercial that featured Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. They were fighting over it being rabbit season and duck season. And then Elmer Fudd said it was shopping season at Warner Brothers Studio Store on QVC. So I thought that was pretty cool. What are your thoughts on them selling on QVC, Wendy?
It's initially I was like, wow, that's really weird. But if you think back to that time period in like the late 90s and the early 2000s, I mean, that was totally on point for doing something. And QVC, I feel like the people they had on there, like they were characters in and of themselves. It didn't matter what they were trying to sell. They were there to sell you something, and they were good at what they were doing. So I think it just makes perfect sense, you know, send some guy dressed like Scooby, sell all of our really cool merchandise. I can just imagine the antics that they got up to with that poor guy in the Scooby suit that probably wasn't allowed to actually say anything, but just like trot around and move around and stuff. I mean, I think that would have been like pure delight. And I would love to know how many kids were allowed to like sit and watch that with their parents and then like pestered out the wazoo. I want that, and I want that, and I want that. And the parents, like their wallet is screaming, you know, in their back pocket. Because I probably would have been one of those kids if that had been a thing that I could have done. Yeah, I would have been like, I want all of those things, because that one still image that you showed, there was like this doll of Shaggy sitting on the table, and I was like, what is that? Because I want it. So from some grainy, probably like 50 DPI crap picture, I already wanted to buy the Scooby stuff that QVC was selling. So there you go. That's the power of Warner Brothers Studio Stores merch and QVC. It doesn't matter. We want it. We want all of it.
So what are your thoughts on them selling on QVC?
If I had a credit card back then, yeah, I'd be in the poorhouse.
Yep.
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't have a credit card back when they had Scooby stuff, because they probably had a lot of Scooby stuff on there too, and you just be an endless. You just be buying it all the time, because they, like Wendy says, they pump it up too. Like they don't even have to like have words, but the additional words just make you want even more. And they're like, this is a limited time, you know, you won't see this deal again. And but yeah, brilliant idea. Glad it doesn't exist
with
now.
like eBay, but you could only call in to get it. And they made it sound so amazing. Like you
Yeah.
had to have it. You had to, or you were going to die. Like it needed to be yours.
Yeah.
Bradford, what are your thoughts on them selling on QVC?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with like Wendy. It's not surprising because it seems like QVC just sold everything. It seemed like it's literally anything and everything was on there. But yeah, I mean, to put the Warner Brothers Studio Store stuff on there seems like a good idea to market the stores. A great way to try to like get stuff to people who didn't have a store nearby. Because like you said, they got up to like 100 and something stores. So I'm sure there are plenty of places not, within driving distance. So it would have helped them a lot. And I mean, if it was around the holiday season, I'm sure there were tons of kids who were begging for all that stuff. So it was pretty genius idea.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about the catalogs. The Warner Brothers store catalogs are just incredible. I have some. I still will sit and look at it for hours. Like, I don't know where the time goes, but I could just literally sit and look at these catalogs forever. Joel, what are your thoughts on the Warner Brothers store catalogs?
They were amazing. I have a couple too that I ordered because I bought some things online before they went out of business. They ordered me, they sent me a couple catalogs and still have them. Don't know where they are though, but I know I have them somewhere because I was going to look at them before this panel, but instead I just found a couple online and just was going through those. I'm like, these ones went back further than the ones I had. And I'm like, oh man, I didn't even know this stuff existed. Didn't even know it. It wasn't even just Scooby stuff. It was just all sorts of stuff. Just, you could spend your whole day just looking at one catalog. And it could be fun to buy that stuff in the store, but it's even more fun just kind of just putting your wish list together, I think, of what you want.
Yeah, I wish I could still order from those catalogs.
Bradford,
what are your thoughts on the Warner Brothers store catalogs?
Well, for starters, I was always confused because there was like multiple ones for like the same like period of time, which I thought was kind of weird. I don't know how they determined where to put which copies. But yeah, when I was growing up, my mom used to get those all the time in the mail, and I remember circling things all the time in there, all the Scooby stuff. And then I've got a whole stack of them now. And but looking back, it's like there's a lot of Scooby stuff, but I feel like it's not nearly everything. Like there's so many things that had to like get left out, which is a bummer. But I imagine they didn't want to print out, these massive thick catalogs to put everything in. So it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, they're fun to look at. It's very nostalgic to look at them now.
Wendy, what are your thoughts on the catalogs?
Yeah, I am a paper catalog girl. I have a collection of paper catalogs. If I see a paper catalog somewhere, I will snag it. I got some paper catalogs in the mail from Lee Valley the other day. I don't even know what the hell Lee Valley is, but my friend had one and I was like, cool, I'm going to get one too because it was free. And I got 3 of them. So that was great. But yeah, my parents did I'm pretty sure that there were never any brick and mortar stores in Canada. I couldn't find any evidence that there had ever been any here. There was probably one like right across the border at Buffalo, New York. I would imagine that, but I don't think there were any here. But right in the late 90s, my parents did somehow order me some things from the Warner Brothers Studio Store, probably online, because we were online for a little bit then. But it did mean that I ended up with 2 catalogs. So I did take the time to dig mine out at the last minute, which they were buried up there and I knocked a bunch of stuff over and it wasn't pleasant, but it was worth it because I mean, kids today are I feel so bad for them because guys, there is something about being able to do this, to hold it in your hands, to look at it, to be able to, stick your fingers in here. Digital cannot replace everything. It just can't. There is something about having something in your hands like this that you can look at and you can touch it and feel it and you can keep it forever. And if the power goes out, who cares? I can sit with my catalog imagining that it's 1999 again and that I had money and, you know, adding up like if I got everything that I actually wanted out of here, how broke would I be? Because that's totally a thing that I still do, you know? If I could go back in time, like what am I going to order if I only have this much money, or where am I going to get more money when I'm there? I don't know. But, and the great thing about them is that design matters. So this is not just pages that have stuff on them. Someone with an artistic eye put this together in a way that kids and adults, I mean, you can't, it's not just the stuff. I mean, they've thought about the layouts. They've thought about what products are going where. And the fact that they can be selling so many different properties, even properties that you don't necessarily, maybe not that you don't like them, but that I don't collect Looney Tunes and I don't collect DC, but my goodness, there is not just Scooby stuff in these that I want. I would absolutely buy every last beanie that they had because they are so cute. They are adorable. But yeah, and I wish I had more of these because like Bradford said, there are actually so many of them and you get like holidays but then you also get like December and it was crazy. It was crazy. And they were free. You could send away for them or you'd get one in your order or whatever. But yeah, as a person who, even as a teenager, because, well, actually, no, I'm pretty sure that they still had Sears wish books until like 2016. So yeah, I was way more than a teenager then. Best part of the year when you got that little card in your mailbox to go pick up your wish book, your Christmas wish book. These are like a wish book any time of year. They're amazing. And I really wish that hadn't have gone out of fashion because there is just something about it that kids today, I feel so bad. They're missing out on such a wonderful experience in the form of a paper catalog. And so I love that Warner Brothers did that, you know, because not every place has catalogs and not every place has them for free. But to think that they put time and effort and like that holiday one, it is a pretty thick catalog. You know, it costs them money to produce it, to then just give it away. But they're definitely a collectible now, you know, which if anybody has looked them up on eBay, the price reflects that. You know, you're not getting one very cheaply now if you want to buy one like that. But yeah, catalogs, best part of it, in my opinion. Totally the best part of it. But that's any paper catalog for me. I just love them.
I do have two with Scooby on it.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show off mine too. Wendy will like this one.
Oh my gosh, I've never seen that one before.
Bragging.
That's great.
Got this one.
Oh my gosh.
And then this one.
Wow.
I think besides the ones that Nikki showed, I think those are the only Scooby. I mean, there's ones like with Scooby just on there, but
yeah, those are like premium Scooby ones. I've never seen those before, but those are the nicest ones I've ever seen. Those are great.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Yeah, we need more. Just make catalogs. Like you don't even have to have a store. Just make us some catalogs and we'll be happy.
Yeah.
There you go.
Joel, you found the Mad Catalog parody. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was the Mad Magazine article, I think in 1999. And they start off kind of like funny and then they just kind of get more absurd as you go through it. So it would start off with like Scooby-Doo Pooper Scooper, and you'd have some kind of messed up Beanie Babies, and you'd have Warner Brothers jackets to pretend that you worked for Warner Brothers, but you'd pay like an outrageous price for it just so you could tell people that you work for Warner Brothers. They just kind of milk you for your money. T-shirts with some funny slogans, whatever. But then it gets to like, you could buy Don Mezek's phlegm because probably constantly spitting while he's doing Scooby or other voices. And then you could buy Nikki, you like the casket, you could buy.
Yeah, you make
Some-
that Scooby and it's mine.
And I think they would for that price.
Yep.
And then there was the Porky Pig tombstone where he's like, "That's all, folks," and it was pretty funny. Some great items that I would love to buy in there, even if they're fake, but if they're real, I'd still buy them.
The
wanna-
Tweety Bird Q-tips were funny.
Right?
They were yellow.
Yeah.
The artwork was funny, but like that Ducktown Massacre one, I think was a bit much. They kind
Yeah.
of crossed the line with that one. And Don Messick's phlegm was pretty gross, but the container it came in was cool.
Was
Yeah.
really cool.
So yeah.
Well, a lot of the stuff they made for that, they actually had to make those things too. There's a Scooby Pooper Scooper somewhere. Somebody had to make that for that issue of Mad
That's
Magazine,
true.
and
Yeah.
somebody has it somewhere.
We'll have to hit up eBay, see if it's in there somewhere.
Someday, yes, someday it'll pop up.
Wendy, do you have any thoughts on the Mad catalog parody?
Yeah, usually I'm not into that sort of thing, but I am not gonna lie. I saw some of those pages a few years ago and I sent them to my friend and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this. It's a Scooby Pooper Scooper. What the heck? It's the best idea ever. And then you just keep going on. And like at first it seems okay. But like Joel said, it just escalates. And all of a sudden you're like, is this real? And like I don't even mind admitting like I totally fell for it. I fell for it because it was just random pages that came up when I was looking for legitimate catalog pages.
Mm.
And they did such a good job. I mean, A+++ to whoever pulled those together because they looked so real that it fooled me even with your ridiculous stuff. But yeah, I was glad that for the most part they didn't go over the top because I could laugh at it. It didn't seem totally disrespectful to the characters. So in that way, I was like, yeah, that was a pretty good idea. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, I collective Scooby Pooper Scoopers around because like I feel like we all actually kind of want one.
We talked about urns on the weird merchandise panel, and there was an urn in that catalog with
Yeah.
Scooby like going through the windshield of the mystery machine. So
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny. Kind of funny that the Etsy thing wasn't the first urn that was made, actually.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We're going to talk about the store's closing. I'm just going to read a little bit and then, yeah. In January 2001, AOL and Time Warner merged, and the Warner Brothers Studios stores were put up for sale. If a buyer couldn't be found, the stores would close. In February 2001, the flagship location on New York's Fifth Avenue was closed, as was the stores in Los Angeles and Palo Alto. By July, there were only 85 stores, and AOL Time Warner announced that the remaining stores would be shut down by October as the company moved out of the retail business. The three-story, 40,000 square foot Times Square location started liquidation in July and closed in October. That store was beautiful. I missed that store. 40,000 square feet of stuff was amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, the store at the World Trade Center was destroyed in the tower collapse on September 11, 2001. By December 31st, 2001, all the stores were closed. Warner Brothers would not share their financial data. However, analysts had said the stores were profitable when they first opened. However, the increased costs in rent, plus the fact that they were competing with themselves by selling lower priced items at stores like Kmart, JCPenney, and Target, made them less profitable. The store closings resulted in 3,800 jobs being cut and were intended to help the company meet a goal of $11 billion in cash flow or earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. AOL Chief Executive Gerald Levin said that the real estate and inventory costs made the stores an unattractive business. Bradford, what are your thoughts on the store's closing?
I mean, it's sad that they all closed. And I don't know, the fact that there's Disney stores everywhere still, and they sell stuff in like other stores, makes me wonder if it seems like a weird reason for why they would need to close the Warner Brothers studio store. It seems like it's much more, it's just a money thing and trying to cut costs or something, like the stuff that Warner Brothers is doing now with things. So I mean, I guess it's not surprising. It's sad, but I don't know. I guess there was nothing we could do about it. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I imagine they saved a lot of money by laying off 3,800 people. Wendy, what are your thoughts on the stores closing?
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think that that was done out of necessity at all. It was just people that came into power who were like, you know what, we could make more money doing something else. And it's kind of like when you hear about banks complaining, oh, we're going broke. And they have like a quarterly profit in the billions. But this year we only made 5 billion this quarter. Last year we made 5.5. They call it a loss. No, excuse me. Profit is not a loss. Any profit does not dictate a loss. And I feel like Warner Brothers was playing that game with the stores where I don't think it's that they weren't profitable anymore. Maybe they were less profitable than when they started, but I personally think that that had more to do with the fact that they started pushing higher end items that were harder for people to buy. I mean, how many people realistically are going to be able to go into a store anywhere, even today, 20 some years later, when monetary value is even changed? But even today, for me to go in a store and drop $300 on like a Scooby statue, I'm not going to. I can't afford that. You know what I mean? So I don't think people could afford it back then either. Go in and buy like 4 or 5 beanies for $7 each. Absolutely. Lots of people can do that, you know? And so I think that because the people, they get like this in business. They get really, really greedy and they'll cut off their nose to spite their face. You know, they get this idea that, well, it would be better to sell 10 of these at $1,000 a piece, when in reality, no, it would be better to sell 100,000 of them at $10 a piece. You're going to make more money. But for some reason, they don't seem to look at it that way. And I think it's because they're already making so much money that they don't care. They don't care if they lose money. Hey, let's film an entire animated movie and then we'll just trash it. You know, like how much money do you have to be making to do something like that? And I kind of feel like even back in the early 2000s, Warner Brothers was kind of already on that road where they were so successful. They had all of the properties. They had everything that mattered and they knew that they could do whatever they wanted with it. And unfortunately, when corporations have that kind of power, it's the little guy that suffers from it. All the people that lost their jobs, all of the fans who lost their access to the things. And that's just really unfortunate. But, you know, it's not too late. Warner Brothers, you can still turn this around and make it so that we all love you. You could easily do it. You are making enough money and we're making enough money now. And we are here ready, willing, and able to part with our money if you make it attractive to us. So come on, this is kind of a no-brainer because I feel like even their online store sucks. It's terrible. It's just terrible. You know, why is the online store not like my catalog? Okay, you don't want brick and mortar, but I don't know. They really don't seem to care if anybody else is happy anymore. They don't care if you're buying their stuff. They don't care if you're watching stuff. I don't know what they're doing. Honestly, I really don't. But yeah, it sucks. It sucks that they closed the stores. That really, all of that work and effort that they put into it with all of the amazing setups that they had. And then to think that when they did close them, it was like, well, let's destroy everything. You know, you hear people talk about that, people that were there that, you know, were like at ground zero when places were closing. And no, they were told, you destroy it, smash the statues. What kind of privileged rich person, you know, it reminds me of when, was it Burberry a few years ago, and they have all their fancy exclusive winter coats that they didn't sell, so they burned them. I mean, I know why they did it, but that it's really hard. It's really hard to swallow something like that. And in the same way, it's really hard for me to see all of those things that they had in those stores and to think that they're like, well, nobody's going to have it. Nobody's going to have it. We're just going to destroy everything and you can all go find another job. Like, ugh. Such a wonderful thing that had such a bad ending on like every level. It just, yeah, it still leaves like a bad taste in my mouth just thinking about what they did.
I just think about the amount of money that they must have paid for each of those statues. I mean, some of them were huge. And then to destroy them when they could have sold them and made some money. If money was the issue, like you could have sold them. You could have made a lot of money. People would have bought those statues.
Yeah.
And you brought up their website. Their website reminds me of Zazzle. It's like they have a design and they put it on a shirt, a cup, you know, everything. And I just feel like it's not really a good store anymore.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, I don't know.
Somebody probably told them they could make more money licensing everything than actually making your own things. So they just make money that way and don't even worry about making their own stuff anymore.
Yeah. Joel, what are your thoughts on the stores closing?
Yeah, I agree with everything that was said. Seems more of a case of making their shareholders happy than their fan base happy. And then tax write-offs and, like Bradford said, licensings. We're seeing some cool licenses like Handmade by Robots and Pinball Machine, but we're also missing out on a lot of, you know, they probably had a lot of creative talent that were putting out some other cool things, but we'll never see now. Because it's probably a large investment to start in like any kind of company, right? Like you're taking a big risk. Handmade by Robots, you know, that's really, they probably invest a lot of money and need a lot of capital to get that going, and they probably they're off to a good start, but you know, they're investing a lot of risk in there too. So yeah, that Warner just passes that on to everyone else and they just can make their shareholders happy and everyone else is depressed.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a more positive thing. Let's talk about your experience with the Warner Brothers stores. I have been to them and I love them. I took pictures and I can't find the pictures, but someday I will find them, share them. But yeah, you just walked into those stores and it was just amazing. And not just because of Scooby, but because of all of the characters that were there. I mean, you found some really cool stuff in those stores. Stuff you couldn't get anywhere else because they made sure it was exclusive to the stores. And the statues, and it did feel like you were walking into like a Warner Brothers set, but there was just a lot of stuff around. And yeah, you found some really awesome, like if you were looking for Scooby, really awesome Scooby stuff that you just couldn't even believe that they even made. So it was just amazing. It's just amazing. My parents would go to Atlantic City all the time, and every time they went, they took a Warner Brothers catalog with them because I circled all the Scooby stuff that I wanted, and they would bring me something back. So that was cool. Wendy, what is your experience with the Warner Brothers stores?
Yeah, so this really was only like very, very shortly before my mom passed away, which makes them more special to me. But I did end up with quite a few beanies that my parents, like I say, I'm pretty sure they either got them online or ordered them over the phone. That actually might be more likely. But my favorite of all, well, he's my favorite sentimentally of all of the beanies. So he's got a little 2000 tassel because I graduated grade 8 in 2000 and I was valedictorian. And so I don't know if I've told this story on the panel before. I hope I'm not repeating myself, but one of my favorite memories was I didn't know I was getting him. I didn't know I was getting any of them. It was totally a surprise. And I came downstairs one day and I went in the kitchen and my parents were there and they're all like, like doing the whole thing. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? And so they show me him and he's amazing and I love it. And they're still being all smirky and they're giggling. And I'm like, I don't get the joke. I really don't get it. And they're like, well, look at him. And they've got him sitting on the table like this with his tail pulled up between his legs. And we just laughed and laughed and laughed until all three of us were crying. And it is like one of my favorite memories of all time, because like I say, like within a month or two, my mom passed away and that was that. So he is very, very, very special to me. Love that they did the full gang. I feel like the fact that Warner Brothers did like the full set of pretty much all of, or at least a lot of the Hanna-Barbera ones, like you could get all of the Flintstones. The only time that Gazoo was kind of cool was in beanie form because he made an adorable little beanie. All of the ones, and of course, the Scrappy beanie. I love him, but I didn't get him directly. I got him years and years later on eBay, but I remember him. He was what I wanted the most out of the catalogs. He is my favorite of all of the Warner Brothers Studio Stores beanies. I mean, good grief. Look at him. Look at his little teeth and his cape. And he's even got a mask. Come on. Come on. He's amazing. I think he's just, I love him. I love him. So yeah, mostly what I have from there is the beanies, but I don't know if I can, is it here? Oh, it is here. I think he's not in one of my catalogs, but I'm pretty sure that he was in one of the catalogs. One of my friends got him for me for Christmas last year, which was amazing. He's wonderful. But yeah, other than that, a lot of the stuff was like a little bit pricey. Oh yeah, knock everything over. But what a cool selection of things. There are definitely things I would still love to add. My final holy grail item that I haven't gotten yet is the Nutcracker, which was always in the catalogs. And I was like, to go in there and get him, back before he was like $200. Yeah. But yeah, I have good memories of it because of my mom. And the fact that at the time it was a big deal for them to be able to find those and actually get them and have them sent to Canada and stuff. But yeah, they're kind of what I treasure the most, but especially my little graduation beanie.
That's awesome. That's a great memory. Joel, what are your experiences with the Warner Brothers store?
I was in the New York one, the Times Square one, a couple times. But I was poor, so I didn't buy anything. But it was just great to walk around in there. And I went to one in Florida as well, I think. But again, poor. It was a family vacation. Couldn't buy anything. But I remember my parents just left me there for most of the day. And I just walked around the whole thing multiple times. Couldn't buy anything, but it's the greatest day of my life, I think.
But even just to walk around and look at you can walk around that store 5 times and still see things that you didn't see the first 4 times that you walked around, especially the New York store. That place was like heaven. It was fantastic. Every time I went to a Warner Brothers store, I would give myself $100 limit. So like I would go when I had the extra money, and yeah, it's so hard to choose what to buy because you could only spend a certain amount of money, and like, what do you get?
Yeah. Very
difficult decisions. Bradford, what was your experience with the Warner Brothers store?
I mean, so like I said, when I was little, it was hard to find Scooby stuff. But I don't know when it was that we found the first one that we started going to, and it was in Southern California. And I'm sure there's a photo somewhere of me as a little kid in front of it. Because by the time the stores closed, I was 10, so I was just a little kid going into these things. And every time we went to the one in Southern California, there was two things I would do. The first thing, they had this big like fake spaceship thing in the back of the store underneath a big like giant screen that was playing clips of stuff. And you could go inside the little spaceship, and there was a little TV screen that would play the Gremlin episode of Bugs Bunny where he's on the airplane and he's messing with the Gremlin. And there's little buttons that made sounds you could push. And so I'd go in there and mess with all those things and play around with that. And then the other thing I loved to do was to go over next somewhere like to the right of that somewhere. They had this like circular kind of spot that had the walls with all the like artwork on them. And they were on these big things that could slide back and forth. And I would just go and stand in there and just like look at all those things and slide them around and like look at all it was the best thing to do in that store, I think, was looking at all the artwork that was in there. And at some point my parents got me, I have the Scooby-Doo one with Captain Cutler coming out of the water. And that was one of the ones that they had in the store, which was cool. And I have some of the other like little, like I have this little thing that my parents got me at some point that was from the studio store, and some of those little things. It was always like a Christmas present or like a birthday present kind of thing. But yeah, every time we were in Southern California visiting like family and stuff, there was a mall that had one. We would go in there, and it was so much fun. So much fun. And then earlier this year, I went down to LA and I went to that place in Burbank that Nikki mentioned at the beginning. And it's very different. It's not quite the same thing. Didn't get quite the same feeling, you know, as I got going into the ones as a kid. But it's on they had like, you go into a big lobby and there's a Starbucks like right next to it, which was kind of weird. But they had some Scooby stuff. I got a little Scrappy. They had a stuffed Scrappy there. They had some like Scooby like branded snacks and some other kind of little magnets and that kind of stuff, but no big displays, no big statues. Just had some like screen used costumes from like superhero movies and that kind of stuff, but very different. But at least there's still one somewhere, and it had Scooby stuff, which was cool. So
Yeah, maybe they'll decide to open some at some point. Or like Joel said, do the pop-up. That'd be fun. Box Lunch, they started doing pop-ups and then decided to open actual stores, I guess, because the pop-ups did really good. So, yeah. We just need some more stores or catalogs, whatever. Whatever. We'll take either. We'll take both. Yeah. Any final thoughts on the Warner Brothers Studio stores? Joel?
No final thoughts.
Bradford?
I mean, just like you were saying, Nikki, I hope that they can open some more or do something to kind of revive that brand of exclusive Warner Brothers Studios store stuff. I would imagine it would do really well now. People love exclusive limited edition stuff, so I don't know why they couldn't give it a shot and try it, but I don't know. I'm not one of those money people that, you know, will be able to tell them if it was going to make money or not, so who knows, but I can hope.
Yeah. Wendy, your final thoughts?
Honestly, if they're not thinking of stores anymore, at the very least, I would love to see Warner Brothers go through those old catalogs and start re-releasing those products. Because I'm sorry, Warner Brothers, but the stuff that you're coming out with now, like some of it's good, but you're really kind of lazy with what you're doing. The assortment and the quality of what those stores carried, like Nikki said, the stapler is amazing. And it's not just some kind of like cheap, crappy stapler either. Like they put a lot of work into the design and the craftsmanship of it, you know, like there's a reason that it wasn't like a $2 stapler, even back when it was in the catalog. And I really feel like there is a market, especially now. There are more people collecting Scooby than ever before. And I have a hard time believing that there aren't that many collectors like me who are not all about, well, I want something that you don't have. When I post pictures of my collection and someone's like, oh my gosh, that there in the background, I love it so much. I wish I could get one. My thought is not, haha, I have something you don't. I feel terrible. And I'm like, I wish that I could snap my fingers and you would have one because you want it. That's always how I felt about collecting. And so I really feel like there's got to be more collectors that feel the way that I do, where it's not just about getting something exclusive or something that you can brag that you have and somebody else doesn't. It's about everyone being able to surround themselves with the stuff that makes them happy or brings them joy. And I really feel like even just the stapler or the nutcracker or that ornament that Bradford showed, one of my favorite ones that I've seen in the catalog. Love it, with the little airplane and a little Scrappy in there. Love it. You've already paid for the design way back when. Remanufacture some stuff, bring it back. There are different properties now that, like Polly Pocket, once in a while they will do like a commemorative keepsake where they will redo one of the pockets. They do it exactly the same. I mean, I think they're a different color, but they do the stylings of those. Like, I still hate to call anything 90s vintage. I'm still like, I can't do that yet. I'm not ready for that. But from that time period, they design it in the same way. I don't know if they have the same molds or they remade them. I don't know. Either way, they do it. And I really feel like there would be a huge market right now. I mean, honestly, use what you've already got, guys. You've already got all of these amazing ideas. Just bring them back, because yeah, part of why I don't buy a lot of stuff anymore is that the new stuff that's coming out is just like, it's a dime a dozen, but you want like $40 for it. Not the way to make money. But again, I don't really think Warner Brothers is looking to make money. They're just looking to like flex that they have something that other people don't. But regardless, yeah, more merch, maybe some stores would be cool, or maybe even just like revamp your website a little bit and like bring back the magic. As when Bradford was explaining, about the newer store, all I kept thinking was, well, they're missing the magic.
Mhm.
They're missing the magic of what Hanna-Barbera and what DC and what all of those properties were pre Money Means Everything. And like, I don't know, maybe everybody would actually benefit from looking at things the way that little kids do and like just get that magic back, because there's not much of it left in the world anymore. They've kind of consumerism, or I don't know what is happening, but we need more of the magic. And WB, like, you're holding all the cards. You have the ability to do it, and it would make you a crap ton of money beyond what you're making right now. So it seems like a win-win to me. But yeah, and just if anybody watching has pictures from the stores, upload those puppies to the internet and tag everybody, because I know that everyone would love to see any kind of documentation, because yeah, it was just a magical time.
Yeah, the stores were amazing. I love the stamp, the Warner Brothers Studio Store stamp that's on the bottom of like a lot of the merchandise that you got. Just to see that is awesome. And yeah, that it's perfect.
Yep.
Yeah. It's plain, but it's perfect. Like, just because it makes me think about the stores and my experiences there. And yeah, I would walk into that store and just like feel so calm and at peace and happy. And I can't imagine anybody walking into one of those stores and being mad. Like, it was just such a fun and happy place. And yeah, like Wendy said, we need more of that. So come on, you can do it. Just open a few stores, just a few. Like one in New York, couple, maybe Tennessee. I don't know where else. One in Canada for sure.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. All right, we are going to wrap up. Before we do, let everyone know where they can find you on social media, and Bradford, will start with you.
You can find me on Twitter, or what used to be called Twitter, Instagram, And then I have a website. My handle's at Higher Bradford, and then my website's BradfordWrightScooby.com.
Wendy?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm at WendyBRYDGE. On Twitter, I'm Wendy Loves Jesus, and my blog is wendylovesjesus.wordpress.com.
Joel?
You will find me in my garage trying to build a time machine. You will know I'm successful when my back shelves are filled with all that Scooby merchandise from the past.
Or you can find them on Planet Scooby on YouTube. And you can find all my links on ScoobyAddicts.com. Thank you for joining us for another Scooby panel. Thank you for tuning in to another Scooby panel. I'm Nikki Blake from ScoobyAddicts.com. If you like these panels, please subscribe to my channel for more great discussions. A huge shout out to our patrons, Julie Rosen, Ross from ScoobyFan.net, Tagus, and Elizabeth Maloney. If you would like to support the Scooby panel, please go to patreon.com/ScoobyAddicts. A very special thank you to artist, blogger, and Scooby collector Wendy BRYDGE, Joel from Planet Scooby, and Scooby fan and writer Bradford Smith. Scooby Panel is available in podcast form on most podcast platforms or as a web series on YouTube. You can find Scooby Panel on Instagram, Facebook, and X as @ScoobyPanel. Scooby and Shaggy were voiced by Scott Innes. Check out Scott's website, onescottshop.com. Scooby Addicts artwork by Will Davenport. Video editing by Nikki Blake. Music composed and performed by Bovine Nightmares. Please join us next time for another Scooby panel.